We are live.
Live.
Live. Hello, YouTube. How's it going? Welcome to this week's Cafe Hangout.
Where we are hanging out.
Sorry, I do that every week.
How are you?
I'm freezing, dude. I know I said that we wouldn't talk about the weather anymore, but I'm in your basement. I'm freezing my ass off. It is really cold.
Why don't you turn the heater on?
Because it'll make noise.
I don't want you to be inconvenienced.
No, I'm fine.
It gets really cold down here, hence the reason I got a heater.
Yeah,
but it is cold here, and it's just the.
You know what? I always get heated when we talk about pro wrestling, so I'll use that.
Oh,
I'll use that.
Man, are you becoming me with this temperature drop?
Hey,
it's supposed to feel like minus 36 Celsius in Toronto today.
Really? That's crazy. Hello, everybody in the chat room. I want to say what's up to Eric, to Jonathan Pine. They're talking about the weather. It just seems like we can't escape the weather talk.
Well, if you want to chat about the weather, wrestling, whether the wrestling is interesting or not, you can call in. Take this number down, 732-800-4423. If you're worried about the toll dinging you, you can also Skype in by simply Skyping us, searching for Post Wrestling. We'll be taking your calls. When you call in, we'll take your call.
Yeah.
And if it happens to be busy, just wait for the next caller to hang up and then call back in. We will get to anyone that does call in. 732-800-4423, Post Wrestling on Skype.
Can we come up with like a fun little like words out of that phone number?
I think 800 you can keep. 4423. I'd have to really look at my. I don't know. I don't necessarily know how we can put this all into one 4-letter word.
We'll work on it. We'll
try. We'll try and come up with something. But calling in is great. But getting to see us live, that to me would be the pinnacle. Would it not?
Yes, of course. And how can people do that, John? What a segue.
Well, Wai, you have really helped to spearhead this. Wai and I have announced already. Oh, we're getting our first call now, right as we're in the middle of
this. You can answer it. We'll get to him right after this.
Okay. Hang on the line, caller. Wai and I will be doing our special Post Wrestling live in New York Q&A special on Sunday, April the 7th, WrestleMania Day, happening at noon Eastern time at the Broadway Comedy Club. And tickets are now available. You can go to postwrestling.com/live for all of the information. It will take you through to be able to pick up tickets that are available for $25, or if you are a patron, a special discount, you get it for $20.
Yeah. For your $6 pledge, we want to give you a $5 discount. So essentially, your Patreon pledge is about $1 for that month. But we want to basically do this live show just as much as an experiment for us to see how much interest there is in a show like this as anything. So it's the first time we're actually selling tickets. So please don't embarrass us.
This will come with we're going to do a Q&A show. We'll also have a meet and greet after the show. We're going to have some Post Wrestling merchandise available, including an exclusive limited edition WrestleMania weekend t-shirt.
Yeah. The man, Robert Pearson, the man who's responsible for designing a number of our t-shirts over the years. He's working on a very special limited edition poster and t-shirt for this very event. In addition to that, though, Robert, not only is he a great artist, he's a great researcher of local New York things to do. So for those of you, remember everybody, this is on the Sunday at noon, just hours before WrestleMania. And we're aware that a lot of you are going to be able to, are going to have to make it from our show to MetLife Stadium. Like we mentioned, the Broadway Comedy Club is a short 14-minute walk away from Port Authority Station. And beyond that, there are lots of options for food, restaurants or drinks around. And Robert Pearson has actually compiled all of that transit and travel info into a very handy PDF, which you can also download at postwrestling.com/live. So you can make all your plans surrounding our live show on your way towards WrestleMania.
Yes. And if you're just there for the Q&A will go until 1:30, meet and greet 1:30 till 2:30. Lots of time to get to MetLife Stadium. that day for WrestleMania. All right. So go again, postwrestling.com/live. That's got all the ticket information. They're available now. Don't embarrass us, as Wai said. Maybe that will be the tagline. Let us go to the calls and start things off. And who is this calling?
It's Dez from California, a.k.a. at Dez Delgadillo on Twitter.
What's happening, guys? What's up, Dez?
Yo.
Nice to talk to you.
I don't think I've talked to you guys since, like, the Law day, or, you know, back in the day. It's been so long, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing swell. Yeah, it's cold up here, probably colder than your climate, but nonetheless, we're surviving.
It's California, so it's not usually that cold, but today it is raining, and Southern California is panicking, guys. There's a panic going on.
There is water from the sky everywhere.
It's falling out of the sky, though, and it's getting everything wet, and people are trying to adapt. So I'll keep you guys posted if on Twitter if you guys want. But
what a
crazy.
Crisis.
What's on your mind today, Dez?
Guys, I am just getting floored by this AEW stuff. Like, every single week, just new stuff comes out. And, like, I don't even know if the Dean Ambrose thing is related to that at all. But the fact that it has potential to be, it's mind-blowing. And
let me ask you this, Dez. Regardless of what Dean Ambrose has planned, I think that just something like AEW existing, it's going to give someone that extra push of confidence that, you know, I can leave here. Whereas in another era, you may think that taking a sabbatical, am I going to be welcome back here? I think it's created an option, whether it's one that performers want to go to or not. Just knowing it's there adds a bit of leverage now whenever you are making career decisions involving the WWE.
Oh, yeah, because regardless of what industry you're in, I mean, you want there to be an alternative. You don't want to be trapped in the same place out of necessity. And for the longest time, especially since WCW has gone under, there's been, like, it's WWE or nowhere else. I'm not going to make money anywhere else. So now that there's that potential, I'm super happy for everybody involved, no matter what happens with Dean or anybody. It's just the fact that they have the chance.
Yeah, like, we're not even out of the first month of the year yet, and we're already seeing potential jumps. I mean, people, you know, just leaving for the first time, like, since those days. We have, like, the excitement of potentially seeing, you know, something on the level of a Lex Luger showing up on a rival company show. You know, Rick Rude showing up on one show one night and then another show another night. It's a terribly exciting time.
They need a show. They need a show first, but I know what you mean, Wai.
Yes, absolutely. Any other kind of thoughts surrounding this that jump out at you, Dez?
The AEW stuff, I mean, just it's going to keep on building, and that's really exciting. But one more thing I wanted to touch on real quick is, I know this is going to go totally against what John was talking about. I just finished listening to Review of SmackDown, so I might be getting my shows confused already. But John didn't seem to like SmackDown, and SmackDown was the first show that I tuned in to watch in a very long time, like, in actuality, and sat down in front of and watched. And I had the best time. Like, it was so much fun to watch. It was 2 hours. It had, like, I didn't think there was a single bad segment on there, and everyone I loved, like, it had Samoa Joe on it, Daniel Bryan on it, AJ Styles on it. It was like this. I grew up watching TNA, so I guess it's just like this dream roster now. If you look at it from that sense, it's pretty amazing. So I just wanted to say SmackDown right now is, like, it has to be the best thing WWE got going right now.
I think consistently it's a very entertaining show. I didn't hate this week's show. I didn't love it either. But yeah, SmackDown consistently. I think they had a hell of a show last week as well, with a number of programs that kind of peaked for those television matches last week. But, you know, very easy to watch 2-hour show that I feel kind of breezes by in comparison.
Yeah,
hey guys, I love what you're doing. And I'll take you guys the rest off the airway. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say love what you're doing, and keep it up, guys. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.
Thanks a lot for the call, Des.
Thanks so much, appreciate it. Thanks for all your support. No, I was just gonna say, like, it's kind of unfortunate that SmackDown is kind of seen as the B show, because so much of, you know, the WWE's reputation rests on the quality of Raw, and you know, that reflects in the ratings as well. But I think much of it has to do with, I think it's better writing on SmackDown. Maybe it's a better roster on SmackDown. When they did that brand split, we looked at how like those rosters split up and how imbalanced it felt. Looking at what SmackDown had versus what Raw had. Do you feel like SmackDown's kind of lived up to the potential of what that roster looked like when they did that?
Going back to 2016.
No, the draft.
Oh, from last year.
Yeah.
I think at this point, yeah, it looked like a great series of acquisitions that SmackDown got coming out of that when you figured what they already had, which, I mean, let's go back to that superstar shakeup, which is right after WrestleMania. SmackDown's got, to me, the hottest thing in the industry in Daniel Bryan and this ability to tell the comeback story, which, let's be honest, they really kind of swung and missed on that one. And now you've got a super entertaining character.
I'll tell you what nobody predicted, though, was obviously Becky Lynch
being
the biggest
one,
star.
Yep.
Yeah, coming off of that draft, I don't think anybody looked at her as the prospect. Now she's the main character of, I would say, both shows.
Yeah, and I think someone that they are going all the way with. And, I think that's going to be a lot of pressure as well post WrestleMania. If you're looking at a landscape that does not include Ronda Rousey and that Charlotte and Becky are going to be prominently featured to be kind of the succession plan, I think that there's a lot on their shoulders as well beyond and going into the Fox era of SmackDown as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what changes we could see, because the superstar shakeup to me this year, it's very important because you're essentially lining up the deck and the rosters for that Fox launch.
Yep.
And how you're going to assess, because in prior years, you're always looking at, well, Raw's got the 3-hour show. It's this monster you've got to feed. But this year, SmackDown to me is undoubtedly the priority over Raw to have ready for Fox, where they need to grow the audience and not be doing 2.1 million viewers on Friday nights.
Mm-hmm. The phone number again, 1-732-800-4423.
A few other news. You and I have not had a chance to speak about Hideo Itami, who it was reported Tuesday night by Fightful. PW Insider also confirming this.
Broke right after we finished recording.
Yes, we've been very poorly timing our shows. So Hideo Itami reportedly requesting his release is expected to be granted it, with the expectation that Tuesday was his final night, losing to Akira Tozawa in 205 Live. And I think the most notable part, the fact that he's expected to be granted his release, and they are not putting up any kind of a fight here that he's being released. Now, whether there's going to be conditions based upon that release, we don't know. But were you surprised that he is, being given what he's requesting?
In this case, not as much, because I feel like this was a relationship that unfortunately just was not working out. It kind of felt like one of those relationships where you kind of want to break up with the person, but nobody wants to make the first move because you don't want to have to be the one to do the breakup, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Itami, certainly, he would probably be the first to tell you didn't live up to his potential down in NXT and 205 Live. I can't say he's been all that impressive either. He's been there, really. That's it. And I don't know what type of money he must have been making, but I can imagine it not being such a big loss for the WWE. And the other thing is, do we know what the terms are of the release? Does it state that he, has to? Can he work for a competitor in North America? Can he work for anybody, or is his release? Is he going to tell them that he's looking to move back to Japan?
Yeah, and how enforceable something like that is as well. I mean, that's kind of a dicey area, that once you give someone their release, like, you may have a 90-day no compete clause in there, but beyond that, I mean, I don't know how much control a former employer should be able to have on that, unless they could specifically negotiate language to a longer no compete clause that you would think would be kind of encompassing everything. Like, maybe there could be something of, you can, for a lot of guys, when they have that 90-day no compete clause, that really means like to do television and to, if you're going to go and do some independent show, they're not going to necessarily be breathing down your neck. Yeah. But we'll see.
In the case of a Dean Ambrose, I mean, I could see them wanting to hold on to him as long as they're legally able to.
Yeah,
but
very different circumstances.
Hideo Itami at this point is not as big of a loss.
Yeah, and I mean, with Ambrose, he has a deal that's up. So there's nothing holding him back. It's like you can
unless do we know what the status is with the rollover with the injuries?
Yeah, well, he had the injury, and they've done that before. I have never, and I have not like talked about this in depth with lawyers. I actually should probably ask more about it, but like I have a really hard time understanding how that works. Like, could you imagine?
Can you explain to people what we're talking about?
So, in the case of certain guys that have had injuries,
like Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan was one, and I believe Rey Mysterio. They did this with that. If you are on the shelf for 6 months and your contract's coming up in April, well, they're going to tack on 6 months, so your deal is not up in April, and it's going to be up in October instead. Like that to me is. I just don't know that if a wrestler were actually to fight that, I would really be backing the wrestler on that, thinking that they would have the better case here. Like,
especially if you're injured while you're doing the job
in a physical, like, could you imagine if a baseball player was approaching free agency and they said, well, remember that year you were out with a torn labrum? Well, we're adding on a year. It's like, well, I'm a different player now, and I'm standing to make this much on free agency, and you're going to hold me to my previous contract that I signed 5 years ago and what I was going to make in year 2.
With Ambrose, though, do you think that this would even be the case because they put out that release saying that he would no longer be here after April?
I think they've kind of put themselves into kind of a spot where I don't think they'd be able to justify trying to tack on time to it. So it seems like it's up in April and that's it. And, you know, to be honest, not having read Dean Ambrose's contract, it's like, who knows if they did tack on time, to be honest. But it's a weird thing. I've never heard of that for anywhere but WWE, of this, if you are injured, of somehow trying to add that onto a contract. So just going back to Itami, I think you and I were there for his peak in the company, and he was brought on to NXT in the fall of 2014, and then WrestleMania weekend. Yes, he was in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They did a big feature on him, but that Friday night we went to that house show in San Jose, and it's remembered for Charlotte and Sasha Banks just tearing it down with that the match that they did, and kind of being the precursor to the takeovers being on Mania weekend. But that was the night they did Hideo Itami in the ring delivering the GTS for the first time, and the pop was just enormous for Itami. And I think that weekend was his high point. And then he had the shoulder surgery he was out for over a year. Then he comes back, he gets dumped on his head from a power slam, he injures his neck, he's out another 6 months. So he had a lot of injuries that, you know, stopped his momentum. And here's a guy that's 37 years old right now, and I'm curious what his next step is. Is he because he came here with the idea of, you know, making it in the US. There's other options in the US, or are you looking at, you know, Noah's under new ownership now? Are you just going back there? I don't know. I don't know what his thinking is, other than not being in WWE.
But he returns, like, he leaves the WWE into a very different landscape, both in North America and in Japan and worldwide. So I suppose for me, the question is, you know, can he keep up with the modern style of what's out there right now, a much more demanding style than what personally I've seen him be able to achieve under 205 Live?
Yeah, it's a great question. That, you know, it was a very different version of him in WWE than you saw in Noah. Not all that different than Nakamura as well. So certainly somebody to watch as well. Ian Riccaboni has signed a new multi-year deal with Ring of Honor. His contract was actually going to be up April 1st, but he signed a multi-year deal. And so that's someone that, again, his contract was coming due, and it sounds like there was interest elsewhere as well for him.
Interesting. Wow.
This is kind of the marketplace that it's always funny to me that as everyone is focused on just loading up on all of this talent, if you are a Ring of Honor that loses your lead voice, that's not an easy role to fill. There's not this incredible depth of great play-by-play announcers. And I think Ian Riccaboni is a really great host and play-by-play announcer for Ring of Honor. That, you know, these are roles that are not there's people out there, I'm sure people that we're not even aware of, but in terms of recognizable play-by-play, it's a pretty small fraternity of quality guys.
Yeah, like when we're talking about seasoned with doing weekly television on a national scale, I'm sure that it's not a huge kind of mass that you can pick from. So good for him. I'm happy to see other people benefit from all of this stuff beyond just, your professional wrestling, current professional wrestlers, like backstage producers, editors, video producers, directors, all can seemingly benefit from this war that's going on.
Yeah, and I can add, it sounds like it's a nice increase over what he was making prior. So it tells me that Ring of Honor is spending money at the moment, and
cool.
It's trickling throughout their roster at the moment. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. The NXT tapings went down on Wednesday night, and we won't go through the results and such, but this isn't really a spoiler. But in the main event, it's Johnny Gargano and Velveteen Dream for the North American title. And what was interesting, they taped 2 finishes, one with Dream winning the title and one with Gargano submitting him with the Gargano escape. And I'm trying to recall I seem to recall they did this once before. But anyway, it's still rare that they do this, and we'll see what airs on television. But kind of interesting that they did this.
Do we know that it's not a case of like what they, did this week on SmackDown with just like one match following another, or did they just pick up from like a sequence in the match and just redo it? Like, how did they explain it live?
Well, they didn't. I think the people just watched it. It's not like you can hear the commentary.
Like he won, and then all of a sudden,
it sounds like Gargano then brought him back into the ring, and then submitted him with the Gargano escape. And then there's the shot of Gargano holding the title with Ciampa.
Wow,
on the ring. So I want to see how it airs, and
I mean,
how they do this.
They're going pretty far to kind of combat spoilers. And on the one hand, I do kind of appreciate it. On the other, like, I worry about like the people who are in charge of like cage match trying to like, write down the proper like result of something like this. I think it's nice to be able to keep your audience guessing.
I guess I think if you're only doing it for that reason about spoilers, I think you're really overthinking things. That the level or the number of people that are even reading spoilers that.
Sure.
To be honest, it's like you read the taping results. I would venture to guess that a very small amount are even remembering what the results are in 3 weeks when a match like that airs.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think it's very minuscule.
Yeah, but I mean, knowing from our audience how much spoilers bother them,
they're completely irrational. So it's like I don't know.
What I hope to see though, if they continue doing this, is just a collection of alternate endings that they'll end up releasing.
I'll tell you, that'll drive talent away real quick. Like, okay, all matches now we're doing alternate endings for.
Oh man,
cool. Count me out.
Could you imagine though, like if this was a thing that was known to be done in wrestling, that if like Austin versus Brett had an alternate ending, or if like Stone Cold versus Rock from WrestleMania 17 had an alternate ending, how different things would be.
There's probably a cool like
Austin never turned heel.
My career mode for a video game where you take a famous match and it's Shawn Michaels submits to the sharpshooter at Survivor Series, and where Bret Hart's career goes after that, and that's who you pick up. And you could pick like 8 different famous matches and go with an alternate finish, and then you assume the wrestler in his career beyond that of how things are different.
Feel like we're not that far. We're probably 5 years away from something like that.
I don't think that's even complicated to do. It just someone has to decide to do it.
Tyler Crane has a question. He wants to know what our thoughts were on TakeOver, because I guess we haven't really had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't get to talk about it. I loved the Johnny Gargano Ricochet match. And I would say that I was surprised at how much I thought people were more down on the main event than I was, because I really enjoyed the match with Ciampa and Black.
I don't think anybody was saying that it was not a good match, just that maybe, it didn't stack up to either previous TakeOver main events or, Ricochet versus Gargano.
I know it wasn't flawless selling. I know there were some holes here and there, but I thought for the most part, Aleister Black was tremendous selling the knee. That spot with the water where he slips on it later in the match.
Yeah.
After Ciampa had like spit it onto the floor. Just little things like where he's trying, the story that his leg is taken away and he can't effectively do the black mass. I really got into that match. I liked it a lot. Gargano Ricochet was my match of the night, but I had that much closer with the tag title match. Like I thought that and the tag title match were kind of my tied for second.
My favorite was Gargano Ricochet, but then I would go with the tag title match.
It was a great tag match, but I think I enjoyed the main event more than most.
Yeah, I thought Ono versus Riddle was a little bit disappointing.
Like it was good. It just wasn't great.
Again, like you're talking about such a high bar that takeovers have set that I don't think that really stacked up. I thought Bianca Belair looked really good for somebody of her experience level. You know, again, I thought it was again clear that she's not ready for the belt yet. I would give her like another at least half a year before I think considering her for that bigger role. But she looked great for the experience that she's had.
And because that was the perception going in and how it played out, I really didn't like the storyline of she doesn't belong here, because I think that inherently kind of almost it almost put it in a position where she has to go out and have this blowaway match to negate the criticism in the storyline of her going into this. And it was just so out of left field. Like here, she's been this cocky, undefeated heel. So in storyline, she's been beating your top women to get this shot. So in storyline, it makes no sense to explain she doesn't belong here. And granted, she's shifting more towards a babyface, but I still didn't feel that label or that storyline they wanted to project onto this match, that she doesn't belong here, fits her character, which is this ultra competitive, cocky athlete that I didn't like it. I didn't think it enhanced the match at all.
I think it's a case where like NXT, like as a character, she does this cocky thing really well, but I think the context of the match felt much more real with her trying to live up to people's expectations. It was just kind of them maybe positioning between reality and what her character is supposed to be that just happened to work for this particular match.
It just felt like an idea that came out that day because that was nothing on TV. And it's like, she's undefeated. She's on this undefeated streak, having beaten everyone. Like if this were a legitimate sport, she would absolutely be your contender.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go back to the phone lines. Who is this calling?
This is Jeremy from West Virginia.
Hey, Jeremy. How are you doing
Jeremy?
today?
I'm doing great, guys. I just wanted to congratulate you all first on the Live from New York show. I can't wait to go to it. I've been to, all the other WrestleMania meetups that day, and it's going to be awesome to be in the comedy club and have it all set up like that for you guys.
Awesome.
I'm happy that you guys are able to sell tickets, and hope it goes well for us all.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there, Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. Is that going to be up as a podcast too? Do y'all know that? Or?
Yeah. We're gonna record the Q&A for a future podcast. Yep.
Okay. Another quick question just on Ring of Honor. You guys were talking about how NXT did their tapings. Ring of Honor's tapings have always kind of threw me off watching the TV product and the Honor Club streams. It seems like they kind of conflict each other. I just started getting more into the product. So like they'll stream the live shows live, and then the TV product's a couple weeks behind. Picking up Rick and Bonnie, do you guys see any room for growth for Ring of Honor, or do you think that they're just looking to kind of stabilize what they're doing, how they're doing things?
I mean, they're going with the mindset that they are not going to be put off course by the loss of the Elite. They have brought in a lot of new names, which is it's one of the unintended benefits when you see a lot of talent leave. It frees up money to bring in fresh faces. And I think that's always something good to have, is fresh faces coming in, that you want to have a bit of changeover every year because it creates new matchups. There's just a natural interest when you have new scenarios in place. So not to say any of these names are going to be able to replace the outgoing names, but I think there is a small positive when you get different names onto the show as well. So I think that this year they very much believe that they have reached a status where they can maintain the business that they've been doing, even with those losses. And time will tell with that. I think there's going to be a big high point with the Madison Square Garden show, that even with the loss of Cody and the Bucks on that show, I think there's still going to be really big shows because of the New Japan talent. And you would think that they want to start to get some of those matches out once they can. And that's probably more a New Japan thing of when they can announce matches for that show. I really hope that's not something where we're up against, a couple weeks out when we're getting the card for the Garden. You want to have that in place to build up anticipation. So I think that that's going to be their high point of the year. And it's going to be a lot on their roster to kind of move past this and be able to carve out a solid spot within the space with all of this competition. So I'm more so looking once AEW starts running, how that impacts someone that's a Ring of Honor consumer. Is that going to affect how much they're going to Ring of Honor shows? And because they're going to be direct competitors going after the same audiences. And I think Ring of Honor, you can't really fault the moves they've made so far. They've brought in some great talent so far.
Yeah.
I think, sorry, go away.
No, I was just going to say, I think it'll be especially important for them this year to kind of distance themselves from relying too much on the New Japan influence, which I think has been a major problem of theirs over the past years. I think signing like exclusive talent like a PCO or Brody King and making those guys your stars is going to be much more important.
Bandito.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the reception that it's going to get in a big place like MSG. The one thing I was thinking about whenever John mentioned the AEW thing was whenever they aired the 0 Hour, that was through Ring of Honor for All In. So since they had that on WGN, I wondered whether Ring of Honor could ever grow out to a WGN and have a stable product like that. I don't guess that AEW is considering WGN because that would be Sinclair affiliate. But I just think that they need that growth, and they can't stay stable where they are with just the affiliated, syndicated programs on the weekend. I just think Ring of Honor needs to grow if they're actually going to compete with AEW.
I think that there's definitely something to that of having a national broadcaster where you have a dedicated time slot every week. You can be the biggest Ring of Honor fan in the world, and if someone asks you, well, when's their show on? Well, I could give you dozens of different answers depending on where you live in the country. And that goes for Canada as well. I think that there's definitely something to that. They do make it pretty easy now for people that if you go on Fight TV, you can watch it. But I still feel television is going to be the medium where you're going to reach the most amount of people who are not logging on to a streaming site to watch wrestling.
And one of the spectacular things about sports and what makes it so kind of, I guess DVR proof is the fact that you have a central time where everybody gathers to watch it live at a certain time. When you're talking about syndication, everybody's watching ROH at a different time, and therefore you miss out on that communal aspect that you get from Raw or SmackDown or anything else.
Yeah, and if you're someone that puts a lot of stock into Twitter engagement and that kind of thing, you're not getting, other than the pay-per-views, that time when ROH fans are, when you're going to see your timeline that's full of ROH comments and stuff, because it's all scattered. People are not watching it on a traditional time slot. And you're seeing the same as well. Like I look at the other example, like an Impact, you're not seeing a lot of buzz either. And that's for different reasons. Like they do have that. They do have a dedicated time,
but nobody gets the channel.
It's just not on a channel that anybody is getting. So like, that's the other side of it. You want to be on a broadcaster that's got, sizable reach. But I don't rule it out, Jeremy.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you're right. In a major market like that where they're not in, but I don't rule it out that Sinclair would not do it if there was, a big proposal on the air. And again, like all roads lead back to AEW, that they get on television and there's a big following to it. It's a copycat industry, and they're going to say, hey, there's non-WWE wrestling that's out there that can get an audience. What else is out there? And that's how a lot of these companies can possibly land deals out of this. If there's kind of this wave and this belief amongst television executives that wrestling can draw money without being WWE branded.
Yeah. I'm hoping for their growth that they're able to do that. Thanks so much, guys. I can't wait to see you in New York.
Thanks, Jeremy. One other thing I want to mention here as well. Impact and MLW sent out a joint press release on Wednesday. They announced that they're going to be collaborating their talent and shows together. They're not running together, but they each have shows on April the 4th, which is the Thursday of WrestleMania week. MLW is running, that's their first of 2 straight nights at the Melrose Ballroom. So they're running at 7 p.m. Then Impact, they are moving their show. They were going to be running in Jamaica, Queens, and now they are moving to Rahway, New Jersey, and they're running a show at 11 p.m. that night. In the press release, they cited that there's a curfew in New York that would not allow them to go past a certain time, so they're doing it for that reason. Now, Lavi Margolin, who's been on this show before, he wrote on Thursday that at his last check, Impact had sold 33 tickets to their event. So I would guess that also went into the decision to move. But they are also not working with House of Glory any longer. They're now working with WrestlePro, and they were very complimentary towards House of Glory in the press release. But nonetheless, moving their show to Rahway as well. So it seems like they are going to coordinate that talent they will structure it in such a way that talent can be on one show as well as the other. Now, the other thing, the two that everyone's looking at here for both are Pentagon and Phoenix, who are doing the WrestleCon Super Show that Thursday as well. So I don't know how all that fits in as well, and how that's all going to work with Pentagon and Phoenix, who clearly everybody wants to be on their show. And I just don't know how feasible that's going to be to do 3 shows in one night.
I found this press release to be kind of odd. That I've never heard of a press release just to announce that we're coordinating schedules with another company.
It was like, we're not like, I tried to read through it that it's almost like, well, we're not going to try and screw the other was pretty much the takeaway here.
Breaking news. Like,
we're not going to book someone so that he is forced to make a choice between both events.
Like, but more so than that, the idea, I guess, was just to announce a change in venue. Was that what this was?
Well,
for?
yeah, like that's not the lead though in this press release. It's not in the title. It's like it's buried down there that they're moving states for their show, which if Lavi Margolin's report is accurate, is only affecting 33 people. I
don't know if it was just some type of spin, but I mean, it certainly leads you to start thinking about a potential, partnership in the future between MLW and Impact. Certainly, if they're appearing on a press release together, maybe there's going to be, maybe that's just the first step in a bigger relationship.
Well, listen, we've talked about MLW and Impact being, promotions to watch in 2018 because of where they're going to fit. This is quickly becoming a table filled with millionaires and billionaires, and they are trying to sit at that table, and they are not.
They're millionaires and billionaires in control of, at least like that we know, Impact. So, but is that person willing to play that big of a game?
That's it. And I mean, I would say Sinclair, you're seeing like that's the biggest company of all of them, and you can see that they are now clearly opening up the purse strings to allow Ring of Honor. It's, again, you go from the value of some of these parent companies, but what is the budget that the wrestling division is getting? But nonetheless, like, these are the people they're in competition with this year for talent, for venues, for television. They're all in competition with one another. MLW and Impact, I think it's going to be a very tough year for them in terms of where they're going to land in this whole landscape and what their talent situation is going to be. I think it's going to be a big battle all year, trying to retain your talent and constantly scouting for new talent, because inevitably people are going to go when they see some of the contracts that are being thrown out there. So they're 2 interesting cases. And if you want to make the argument, are they stronger together? Maybe they are. It's very difficult, though, for promotions to get on the same page and work together when they're kind of in competition with one another as well. It's AEW and ROH, same thing. It's like you're kind of believing that we can have this section of the playground to ourselves, and everyone's fighting for their own portion.
And I mean, if at the top of at least some of those plans are Pentagon and Phoenix, their statuses are very much up in the air.
Well, they are the 2 big gets, and once they're free and clear, I think they stand to greatly benefit if Lucha Underground calls it a day and they're contractually free to do so. They're 2 huge acquisitions. Other news to discuss this weekend, we've got several shows coming up. There are the New Japan shows that are happening both in Sapporo and the US shows as well. The LA show went down on Wednesday night. They're going to be in Charlotte on Friday, Nashville on Saturday.
Yeah, do you have the card, or do you want to quickly go through some of this?
We can
some of the headlining matches.
Yeah, in the US on the Friday night, we've got Carl Fredericks versus Clark Connors, John Schuyler and Colt Cabana against Lance Archer and Shane Taylor, The Great O'Karn versus Tracer X.
This is all going to be on World.
I asked about that a few weeks ago, and it was said that maybe it will be on New Japan World. So
that kind of tells you how important these shows are, I guess.
Well,
but still, like they should be good, especially, you know, with all this talent. I think feeling a little bit of pressure from all the criticism.
Listen, I'm sure the shows are going to be fine. And listen, they sold tickets to these shows. Like the business, granted, I mean, that was done ahead of time when I think people's expectations of what would be on this card were different, but it's not as though you've heard of people unloading tickets either. Jeff Cobb and Jonathan Gresham against Brody King and Marty Scurll. That should be very good. Alex Coughlin against Davey Boy Smith Jr., Tracy Williams and David Finlay against Chucky T and Rocky Romero. And the main event, Juice Robinson defending the United States title against Beretta, who it was reported by Dave Meltzer, Beretta and Chucky T finishing up with New Japan this weekend.
Very interesting. So, I mean, those results might be at least somewhat expected, but I think it'll be cool to see how Chucky and Beretta, you know, fare in their going away match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm also very interested to know what exactly this whole Lifeblood thing is going to be about. It's very much an ROH show, this one.
Yeah, I would say all of them. Take out ROH talent. This is a pretty
but again, that's not necessarily
you don't even have shows.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think, you know, like we were talking about earlier, ROH is in a bit of a rebrand, and I think this will be a show where you'll get to see a lot of those new characters come out.
Yeah, I would think between New Japan World and Honor Club, you'll see these shows somehow.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's just a matter of where they put them.
How about the Japan cards?
Yes, let's take a look. So on Saturday night, we start out with our first night in Sapporo.
Saturday night in Japan, Saturday morning
in North America. Opener, this should be really good. Ren Narita and Yuya Uemura. These two are the Young Lion rivals, and these guys, like the best opener in wrestling at the moment.
Cool.
Toa Hanare and Manabu Nakanishi against Shota Umino and Ayato Yoshida. That should be very good as well. Then we've got Hiroshi Tenzan and Tiger Mask against Takeshi Iizuka and Taka Michinoku. That's a match. Then we have...
I thought Iizuka was retired, or he is retiring soon?
Yeah, he's retiring in about 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. 3 weeks.
So this is kind of his winding down tour.
Yeah.
Then we've got, rounding out the card, we've got the Gorillas of Destiny, Yujiro, Chase Owens, and Taiji Ishimori against Yoshihashi, Tomoaki Honma, Toru Yano, Togi Makabe, and Ryusuke Taguchi. Shingo Takagi, Bushi, and Tetsuya Naito versus Taichi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and El Desperado. And then the three big matches, Sonata versus Minoru Suzuki, Evil versus Zack Sabre Jr. That should be really good. Mm-hmm. And the main event, Tanahashi and Okada versus Jay White and Bad Luck Fale. So
yeah,
a mixed bag of
kind of your standard New Japan, you know, smaller show with a bunch of multi-mans. But I would say the last three matches seem like they might be worth going out of your way to.
And the opener, I definitely recommend the opener. I think that'll be definitely one to tune in early for. All right, we're going back to the phone calls. Who is this calling?
Hey, it's Charlie from Maryland.
Hey, Charlie, what's going on today?
I'm good, man. It's a bit cold, Maryland. I'd say a little bit of snow that we had, but nothing compared to you guys.
Is Maryland? Yeah, I guess you're further south. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. What's on your mind, Charlie?
Yeah, I actually did want to talk about the Hideo Itami contract. Like the ending, it was so crazy. Like it caught me off guard, and I really hope he kind of goes back to Japan because I really want to see. Like, I think I watched the Naomichi Marufuji, the 20-year anniversary where he did that show.
Yeah,
he looked super happy in that show.
Yeah, that's where WWE loaned him back. He got to be Kenta for one night, and they had a great match together. So, I mean, that's kind of, you know, a year ago, if he's leaving, I think most would have assumed he's going back to Japan. But I mean, it's a thriving market in the US. He's been on WWE television. I don't completely rule out the idea that he may still have that itch to have a really solid North American run, and it clearly wasn't happening in WWE. But yeah, his next, like, there's going to be interest. I mean, that to me is undeniable.
Where would you like to see him?
I mean, Oh, go ahead.
Where would you like to see him in particular if he goes to Japan?
A New Japan wouldn't be bad, honestly. But to me, I think a Noah would fit him better since he's been there before, and he looked happy when he was there. But New Japan actually wouldn't be bad, mixing it with some juniors or even go to heavyweight.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that they would love to see All Japan and Noah work together more often, and I would love him in a scenario like that. I don't know if he'd kind of get lost in the shuffle in New Japan at the moment, and I think that there's inevitably that loyalty to Noah as well. That if he is looking at the Japanese route, that would probably be where you would see him end up. But yeah, I think everyone's looking forward to what his next chapter is and how he looks in his next. So the guy is 37. He's had several big injuries over the last couple of years. So it's not without questions either. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be suddenly he's turning the clock back 8-9 years in this next run either. So.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to mention. Thank you guys for taking my call, and hope you guys have a great day today.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. Appreciate it. I think we have the most polite callers.
They're so nice. I'm waiting for
Hey, assholes. Why didn't you like the hemp belt?
I'm waiting for Brandon from New Jersey to call in.
I know.
Why have you not taken the challenge yet, Brandon?
I'm really disappointed in Brandon.
He's waiting for a one-on-one interaction.
He's an all-time caller.
He'll be at the live show, I hope.
I hope so too. Yeah, he has no excuse. It's just across the river.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the Sunday card?
Yes, I've got that right here. So
we'll be again doing a show after on Sunday afternoon, talking about both of these Sapporo and both of the Sapporo shows.
Night 2, Sapporo. We've got Toa Hanare versus Yota Tsuji, Tiger Mask and Manabu Nakanishi against Shota Umino and Ayato Yoshida, Ren Narita and Hiroshi Tenzan against Taka Michinoku and Takeshi Iizuka. 8-man tag. Ryusuke Taguchi, Tomoaki Honma, Toru Yano, and Togi Makabe against the Gorillas of Destiny, Taiji Ishimori, and Yujiro. Yoshihashi, Kazuchika Okada, and Hiroshi Tanahashi against Jay White, Bad Luck Fale, and Chase Owens. For the IWGP Junior Tag titles, Shingo Takagi and Bushi defending against former champions El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Sonata and Evil defending the IWGP Tag titles against Zack Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki. That should be very good. And the main event, Tetsuya Naito, Taichi for the Intercontinental title.
Oh, I can't wait.
I don't know about the second night.
Oh, come on. Taichi's going to
first night, there's a lot to like about the first night. The second, we'll see.
Yeah, I would say a bit more of a
I think it's the weakest of the three the big new beginning cards.
Yeah, perhaps. But I'm happy to see Taichi, the man, get some focus. I can't wait for that big entrance to come out. I don't predict a great result for him, though.
Yeah. What about the following week? Tanahashi, Jay White for the IWGP title. Do you see a title change?
Oh, man. It's like one of those things where I can never underestimate, Gato's booking. But because Jay White is just like very hot right now.
It will not surprise me in the least if they put the title on him with a shocking title change and beating Tanahashi. Wouldn't shock me. I don't know if I would do it right now, but you know what? That was my thinking too, going into the Tokyo Dome, that Jay White is going to get there, but Okada should win at the Dome, showing that he's not quite there yet. And I'm going with the same thing here, that he's not quite ready yet for the title, but man, they beat Okada. It came off great.
Yep.
Maybe Ghetto's style is, it's not like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He's all in on a guy.
Oh.
So I mean, the idea of Jay White winning this title is a very realistic possibility.
I think you think about, what a loss would do to Jay White versus what a win would do for Tanahashi.
You got his moment. He had the big Tokyo Dome win,
Yeah.
and it's like you lose it in your first defense, and it's like, here's the new hot shot. It's Jay White.
Like, what more story is there really to be told with Hiroshi Tanahashi? I mean, Madison Square Garden is something that you should be thinking about too, though.
Yep. And what that big match is. I will guarantee you this, though. If Jay White wins the title next week, there will be people that will say it's too early.
Mm-hmm.
I will say every single one of those people will be wrong within 6 months, because I am 1000% sure that within 6 months of him as champion, everyone will be looking back and saying, this guy is one of the best in the world, and they were ahead of things with Jay White.
I think their track record is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, the infrastructure is so good. The writing is good.
He had a shaky start as a Switchblade character, but I would say for the last 6 to 8 months, he's he's really honed in on that character and it's come together. It's not fully there, but I think they know it's going to be.
It reminds me, he was on recently he was on Talk Is Jericho, and they had a really great chat, Jay White and Jericho, talking about, just how he kind of came up as a young boy, talking about how like he didn't know exactly what the young boy system even entailed. He also mentioned how like when he first really got into wrestling, it was from like winning some contest that sent him to WrestleMania from Australia. So he got tickets to WrestleMania by winning some radio contest. It's still like it's amazing to think that this guy is just still so young, and relatively new in the business, but already so confident in having achieved so much.
Yeah, I remember interviewing him a few years ago when he was on his excursion here for Ring of Honor, and I remember because you only saw him on ROH shows, and I said something to the effect of, so you're here, you can only work Ring of Honor, I assume you're exclusive. It's like, no, I can work anywhere, and this is my email to book me. And it was like he was clearly like, he was over here and probably like, I was expecting to be on a lot more shows than I am. So anyway.
Yeah, no, they clearly see a whole lot in this guy. I'm assuming Gato sees even more in him that we haven't yet seen. He actually went to detail about like all the Jim Ross stuff too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
That Barnett match. So I encourage everybody to check that podcast out.
You know what the shortest lived podcast is going to be?
I heard Kevin Kelly.
I haven't heard what the deal was.
Yeah.
But Kevin Kelly launched his own podcast, and Nate Milton was involved in it briefly.
It's with the Place to Be Nation.
Yes. Yeah. And it was, I really liked the idea. Not the most novel idea, but I thought it was a cool concept of 5 minutes a day of doing a show.
Yep.
And the shortest podcast had the shortest run. He announced just out of nowhere on Thursday that he can't do it any longer. And I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but it didn't seem like it was his call.
The rest of the network is still going?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah, he says here, Kevin Kelly, I am disappointed to announce that my 5-minute podcast and the podcast league has come to an end. I want to thank the gang at Place to Be Nation for all their hard work. Sorry it was for naught, and to all who listened, subscribed, rated, and discussed. My apologies to everyone. This makes it sound like it's the entire podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
like not just the 5 minutes, but the whole network.
Yeah, like not knowing it, it sounds like he was informed he can't do this.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I think Kevin Kelly's. I was looking forward to listen to that show. So it's unfortunate he won't be continuing it any further. But
yeah, Nate Milton had an appearance on it.
Yeah, so that was Anyway, it's just a story that came across this morning.
Nate Milton's just popping up everywhere.
Dude, Nate Milton's all over the place. So when I go to the next Fast and the Furious movie and he's suddenly like pulling up in a Ferrari or something, I'm going to be like, of course.
Well, he'll be Hobbs' sidekick, I'm sure. He'll be documenting the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be one, right?
Don't be a Nader hater.
Oh, what?
A Nate hater.
That would be something if like he got someday like a cameo appearance in a Rock movie that he would end up having to review on his podcast.
And then I walked in.
That would be the ultimate.
And Brian gives a very critical analysis of the cameo.
Yeah. So any other news topics that you wanted to talk about? Because
no, I just want to reiterate Beyond the Live show, which you can go postwrestling.com/live. We have a bunch of shows coming up. Post Puroresu is not out today, as many people have noticed. It will be delayed. We will have that up on late Friday, early Saturday morning. So had to adjust the schedule. So that will be up Saturday morning. On Friday, though, well, today, you have a brand new Up Next with Braden and Davey. On Friday, Way and I are back with Rewind Away for all of you Café patrons with a review of No Way Out 2000, which was quite the trip to go back and watch Triple H, Cactus Jack in their Hell in a Cell match with Mick Foley's career on the line for 6 weeks.
Oh, don't forget Mark Henry versus Viscera.
Do forget that.
With Mark Henry's baby on the line.
Nothing Way said was sarcastic.
Lots of it was weird, I'll just say. I think we all fondly remember that main event for those who have seen it, but the undercard was certainly a bit more of a mixed bag, at least to me. So
yeah, it was the evolution of the undercard, because we were going from let's be honest, 99 had some pitiful undercards, and now the talent was seeping through.
Yep.
But this was not a show where it all coalesced. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
So that's on the Café. Again, postwrestling.com/live to get all your details and to buy tickets to our live show that's happening on Sunday, April 7th at 12 o'clock. Patrons, $5 off. So tickets for you are $20. To everybody else, $25.
Fantastic. So that's going to wrap it up, everyone. Postwrestling.com for all the latest news. Postwrestlingcafe.com. And hey, maybe you're watching this. YouTube.com/postwrestling. Subscribe for free, and you'll never, ever miss a video.
Goodbye.